My daughter invited 200 people to her wedding, but she left me, her own father, off the list. This is an elite event. A poor man like you has no place there. I just smiled. On the day of the wedding, I flew in anyway, in my own helicopter, landed right on the grounds of her elite restaurant, and revealed the whole truth. The wedding was canceled in 15 minutes. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and write in the comments what time it is where you are now. The phone rang while I was reorganizing Barbara's old recipe box, something I did when the house felt too quiet. Sunday afternoon, light filtered through the kitchen curtains, turning everything amber and soft. I almost didn't answer. Dad, I have amazing news. David proposed last night. We're getting married. Jennifer's voice hit me like a wave, bright, electric, almost too cheerful. My daughter, engaged. The words should have filled me with pure joy, but something underneath her excitement felt rehearsed, like she'd practiced this call. That's wonderful, sweetheart. I'm so happy for you. I know, we should celebrate. Can you meet us for lunch today? There's a place near Coconut Grove, Bellemare. Say 2 o'clock? Us, not him. Not David, the man I'd never heard of until 30 seconds ago. Us, like they were already a unit and I was orbiting outside. I'll be there, I said. 2 hours later, I pulled my 2008 Toyota Camry into Bellemare's parking lot and spotted the black Mercedes-Benz gleaming in the Florida sun. New model, dealer plates still visible. I parked 3 spaces away, climbed out, and caught my reflection in a car window. Khaki pants, plain polo shirt, worn boat shoes. Simple. Practical. Exactly what I'd chosen to be for 3 years. Through the restaurant window, I saw Jennifer sitting across from a man in an expensive navy suit. She was laughing, touching his arm, animated in a way I hadn't seen since before Barbara died. The man turned as I approached, and his eyes performed a quick scan, head to toe taking inventory. 2 seconds. That's all it took for his expression to settle into something I recognized. Polite dismissal. Mr. Warren, good to finally meet you. Jennifer talks about you. David Mitchell's handshake was firm, professional, over before it began. His smile revealed perfect teeth, but nothing behind them. Nice classic car you've got there. Toyota, right? They run forever. The word classic landed like a polite insult. Jennifer fidgeted with her napkin, watching David's face more than mine. I slid into the booth across from them, feeling the worn vinyl beneath me, and noticed the menu prices. Expensive enough to impress, but not so expensive that David would need to contribute much. Calculated. So tell me about yourself, David, I said. Financial consultant. Corporate restructuring, mostly. I help companies optimize their assets. He checked his Rolex, quick glance, casual but deliberate. Keeps me busy. Jennifer jumped in, her voice too bright. We're thinking August 23rd. I know it's fast, but David's schedule is tight, and we found this perfect venue. It's going to be beautiful, Dad. Really elegant. The kind of wedding Mom would have loved. The mention of Barbara hit my chest hard. I looked at Jennifer and saw my wife's face, the woman who married me when I was just a waiter, who believed in me when I had nothing. Barbara had dreamed of this moment, planned for it in those quiet conversations late at night. She'd wanted Jennifer to marry well, to be happy, to have everything we'd built together. But this moment felt hollow. We're thinking Azure Coast, Jennifer continued, glancing at David for approval, on Miami Beach. The views are incredible. I knew Azure Coast. Of course I knew it, but I said nothing. David leaned back, cutting into his steak with surgical precision. These events add up fast. Venue, catering, flowers, easily 50, 60,000 for something decent. But hey, you only do it once, right? Parents usually cover it, tradition and all that. The statement hung in the air, not quite a demand. Jennifer wouldn't meet my eyes. Her hand crept toward David's arm again, seeking reassurance from him instead of connection with me. The waiter appeared, refilled water glasses, vanished. David's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, lips tightening. Excuse me. Business call. He stood, pressed a kiss to Jennifer's temple. Back in 5. The moment he left, Jennifer's shoulders dropped slightly. She looked at me, and I saw something I'd never seen before in her eyes. Embarrassment. Not about David. About me. Dad, I know the wedding costs are a lot. We're not expecting you to cover everything, but if you could help, even a little, I'm happy for you, sweetheart. Your mother waited years to see this day. I wish she could be here. Jennifer's face softened, but then her gaze shifted to my worn collar. My calloused hands wrapped around a water glass. The softness disappeared. Whatever you need for the wedding, I'll help. You deserve a beautiful day. Thank you, Dad. Her relief sounded more like checking a box than expressing gratitude. David returned, phone in hand, placing it face up on the table. Stock market numbers glowed on the screen. A power move, declaring his world bigger and more important than our family lunch. He smiled at Jennifer, squeezed her shoulder. All good? She asked. Always is. He turned to me. So, Mr. Warren, you're retired now? Jennifer mentioned you used to work in hospitality. Used to work. Past tense. Like I was a relic, a closed chapter. That's right, I said. The lunch ended with handshakes and promises to talk soon about wedding details. I walked back to my Camry while they climbed into the Mercedes. Jennifer waved through the tinted window. I waved back. The drive home took 20 minutes. I gripped the steering wheel tighter than necessary, feeling Barbara's wedding ring pressing against my chest. I wore it on a chain under my shirt, always. Jennifer's nervous laughter echoed in my head. David's dismissive glances burned behind my eyes. The sick feeling in my stomach grew with each mile. My daughter was ashamed of me. I pulled into my driveway and sat in the dark car, engine ticking as it cooled. The modest house stared back at me, peeling paint, overgrown lawn, rusty mailbox. The house I'd chosen deliberately after Barbara died. The house that hid who I really was. Inside, the silence waited. 2 days later, Jennifer's car appeared in my driveway. Tuesday afternoon, sun beating down on her silver Honda Civic. I watched from the living room window as she sat motionless behind the wheel for 30 seconds, gathering courage. Her eyes traced the peeling paint on the porch, the weeds pushing through cracked concrete, the rusty mailbox listing slightly to the left. Visual evidence confirming what she believed. Her father was struggling. She finally emerged, smoothing her dress, rehearsing something under her breath. I opened the door before she could knock. Dad. Her hug was mechanical, brief. The garden looks nice. The lie hung between us. The garden looked terrible, and we both knew it. Come in, sweetheart. Want coffee? We settled at the kitchen table, her hands wrapped around a chipped mug I'd owned for 20 years. She glanced around the room. Outdated furniture, old television, worn carpet. Each glance was a small judgment, building the case in her mind that I was barely scraping by. I wanted to talk more about the wedding, she began, voice careful. David and I found the perfect venue, Azure Coast on Miami Beach. It's expensive, I know, but it's the kind of place his clients expect. I said nothing, just watched her face. His partners will be there, important people. We need everything to be perfect. She pulled out her phone, swiped through photos, top-tier catering, live band, flowers from this amazing florist in Brickell, professional photographer, videographer, the whole package. How much are we talking about, sweetheart? Jennifer set down her phone, met my eyes. 50,000. I know that's a lot. If you can't, I understand. David has savings, but his parents are contributing too, and it would mean so much if you could match them. For Mom's memory. She invoked Barbara like a weapon, knowing it would cut deep, and it did, but not for the reasons she imagined. I pulled out a simple notepad, wrote down the numbers she mentioned, acted the part of a struggling father carefully budgeting his last resources. Jennifer watched me write, her expression mixing hope with doubt. She checked her phone, once, twice, 3 times. Messages from David, probably, asking how it was going. Consider it done, I said. Jennifer's head snapped up. What? I'll transfer the money tomorrow. Your mother saved for years dreaming about your wedding day. She'd want you to have everything perfect. Confusion crossed her face. Where would a retired man living in this house get $50,000? But relief quickly buried the question. She stood, came around the table, hugged me harder this time. Thank you, Dad. You don't know what this means. But her gratitude felt hollow, like she was already calculating what else she could add, with the unexpected windfall. She left 15 minutes later, promises to call soon dissolving in her wake. I watched her car disappear down the street, then moved to my computer in the spare bedroom. Banking app, open. Password entered. The transfer screen loaded. From my checking account, the one Jennifer knew existed, the one I'd maintained with exactly $75,000 for believability, I scheduled $50,000 to her account, enough to seem like everything I had. Below that account, hidden in tabs I didn't open, other accounts held millions, untouched, invisible. That evening I sat on the back terrace with a framed photograph of Barbara, our Azure Coast opening day 15 years ago. We stood in front of the restaurant, cutting the ribbon, surrounded by friends and investors. Barbara's smile was radiant. We'd built an empire together, 8 restaurants across South Florida, the Azure Coast, our crown jewel. She'd insisted we raise Jennifer humbly, teach her values, keep her grounded despite our wealth. After Barbara died, I'd made a decision. Live modestly. See who valued me for myself, not my money. 3 years of playing poor, watching relationships reveal their true nature. Jennifer had passed every test until now. Voices drifted from the front of the house. I stood, moved quietly through the dim kitchen. Jennifer was on the porch, phone pressed to her ear. She thought I was inside. He just gave it to me. All 50,000, no questions. David's voice tinny through the speaker. I couldn't make out words, but his tone was mocking. I know, right? That's probably everything he has. Jennifer laughed, sharp, dismissive. God, I hope he doesn't expect some big role at the wedding now. David, your partners are going to be there. We can't have him showing up in those clothes looking like... She stopped mid-sentence, glanced toward the door. I stepped back into shadow. Her voice dropped lower, but I caught fragments. Small table in the back. Maybe just the ceremony. We'll figure it out. She ended the call, walked to her car, drove away. I stood in the darkened kitchen, Barbara's photograph still in my hand, the conversation playing on repeat in my head. I returned to the terrace, sat in the darkness. The Azure Coast. Jennifer had chosen my restaurant for her wedding without knowing I owned it. The irony would have been funny if it didn't burn through my chest like acid. I picked up my phone, opened the banking app again. The transfer glowed on the screen. $50,000, scheduled for tomorrow morning. Below it, in accounts Jennifer would never see, millions sat untouched. I stared at the numbers, then closed the app. A decision crystallized in my mind, sharp and clear. I would go to this wedding. Whether invited or not, I'd be there. Jennifer wanted elegant. She wanted to impress David's partners with a venue she didn't know belonged to her embarrassing father. Fine. She'd get exactly what she asked for, and she'd learn precisely who she'd chosen to humiliate. 4 days passed since I transferred the money. Saturday morning arrived with bright Florida sun and an empty mailbox. I sat at my kitchen table, coffee growing cold, staring through the window at the metal box mounted by my driveway. 1 week until the wedding. My neighbors had received their invitations 3 days ago. I'd seen the elegant cream envelopes in their hands at the community mailboxes, heard them discussing the fancy venue over hedges and driveways. My mailbox stayed empty. I checked my email for the dozenth time. Nothing. Spam, bills, grocery store coupons, no wedding invitation. I picked up my phone, kept my voice light and casual. Sweetheart, I was just checking. I haven't received the wedding invitation yet. Should I be watching for it in the mail, or are you doing email invitations? Oh, Dad, the printer had some delays. Jennifer's voice carried that hollow quality I was learning to recognize. Background noise suggested she was busy with something else. Rustling papers. David's voice in the distance. We're still addressing them. So many guests, 200 people. I'll bring yours by personally. Don't worry about it. 200 people. But not me. Not yet. Okay, sweetheart. Just wanted to make sure. I hung up unconvinced. The lie felt obvious now that I knew what to listen for. The next morning, I drove to my usual coffee shop in Coral Gables, a routine I'd maintained for 3 years, part of the modest lifestyle I'd built deliberately. The place knew my order: medium black coffee, occasionally a blueberry muffin. Simple, unremarkable, exactly what a struggling retiree would choose. Clifton! Robert from 2 streets over spotted me while I waited for my order. 60s, retired accountant, pleasant enough neighbor. He approached with that enthusiastic energy people have when they're about to share news they think you already know. Congratulations on Jennifer's wedding. Azure Coast. Wow, that's the place in Miami Beach, right? My hand froze, reaching for the coffee cup the barista had just set down. Azure Coast, I repeated. Yes, that's wonderful. I've never been, but I hear it's incredible. Must have cost a fortune to book. Robert pulled out his phone, swiped through screens. Your daughter must have some serious connections. Or did you help her get in there? He turned his phone toward me. The digital invitation filled the screen. Elegant design, cream and gold. Jennifer's and David's names in sophisticated script. Below them, Azure Coast Restaurant, Miami Beach. Saturday, August 23rd. 4 o'clock ceremony. Reception to follow. My hand trembled slightly as I steadied his phone to read the details. There in the bottom corner, I saw it. The Azure Coast logo. My logo. The design I'd approved 15 years ago when we'd launched the flagship location. The crown jewel of my 8-restaurant empire. When did you receive this? I heard myself ask. 3 days ago. Beautiful design, very elegant. The whole neighborhood's talking about it. Robert pocketed his phone, oblivious to the earthquake happening inside my chest. Your daughter really knows how to throw an event. You must be so proud. Proud. I stood in the coffee shop, my order growing cold on the counter, while Robert continued talking about the venue's prestige, the oceanfront terrace, the private helicopter pad, the impossibility of booking unless you knew someone important. Every detail he mentioned was something I'd designed, built, paid for. I'd personally overseen the terrace construction. I'd insisted on the helicopter pad despite the architectural challenges. Jennifer had chosen my restaurant, probably recommended by David's wealthy contacts, without knowing her embarrassing father owned it. The irony should have been devastating. Instead, it was overshadowed by something simpler, sharper. My neighbor received an invitation. I didn't. I thanked Robert, took my coffee, drove home. The 30-minute drive stretched longer because I couldn't help myself. I detoured past Azure Coast, parked across the street, watched the Sunday brunch crowd enter through doors I'd selected, watched valet parking cars at a station I'd designed, observed the business I'd built being prepared for my daughter's wedding, the wedding I apparently wasn't invited to. Back home, I tried to rationalize. Maybe Jennifer wanted to hand-deliver my invitation. Maybe she was planning something special. Maybe the printer really did have delays, and Roberts arrived first by coincidence. But I remembered her phone conversation with David. We can't have him showing up in those clothes. I remembered her uncomfortable glances at my house, her relief when I'd agreed to the money so quickly. That evening I sat in my living room surrounded by the deliberate simplicity I'd chosen after Barbara's death, the worn furniture, the outdated television, the faded carpet. I'd lived here for 3 years, testing relationships, seeing who valued me versus who valued my money. I opened my desk drawer and pulled out a folder marked Jennifer. Inside, receipts, bank statements, canceled checks. University of Miami tuition, $80,000 across 4 years. Her first car, a sensible Honda, $15,000. Co-signing her apartment lease, covering 6 months of rent when she couldn't find work, another $9,000. Every contribution documented, a paper trail of paternal love measured in dollars. I spread them across my kitchen table, added them mentally. Over 34 years, I'd given Jennifer roughly $350,000 in direct financial support. Not counting Christmas gifts, birthday presents, the countless smaller expenses parents absorb without tracking. She'd taken everything. Now she was ashamed to invite me to her wedding. I picked up my phone to call her again, typed 3 different text messages, deleted them all, set the phone down, picked up Barbara's photograph instead, the one from Azure Coast's opening day, both of us grinning at the camera, proud of what we'd built together. Sat in the growing darkness without turning on lights. 3 days crawled by. I went through the motions of daily life, checking mail obsessively, refreshing email, watching my phone. No invitation, no call, no acknowledgement that I'd given Jennifer $50,000 1 week ago. By Tuesday evening, with the wedding 4 days away, I realized I'd been making excuses for the inexcusable. I picked up my phone. Jennifer's contact filled the screen. This time I didn't delete the message. I didn't hesitate. I made the call. The phone rang 3 times before Jennifer answered. 4 days until the wedding. 3 days since Robert had shown me the invitation to my own restaurant. 72 hours of making excuses. The waiting ended now. "Hey, Dad, what's up?" Her voice carried that bright, false cheerfulness I'd learned to recognize. I stood on my back terrace, watching darkness settle over Coral Gables, and dispensed with pretense. "Jennifer, I need to know. Am I invited to your wedding? A yes or no answer, please." Silence stretched across the phone line. 5 seconds. 10. 15. I could hear her breathing, hear David's voice in the background, asking something I couldn't quite make out. The pause told me everything before she spoke. "Dad, this is going to be an elite event." Her voice had changed, shed the false warmth, settled into something colder, more calculated. "David's partners from his firm will be there. Wealthy clients. Important people from his network. Someone in your financial situation you'd feel out of place. It's not personal." I gripped the terrace railing, forcing myself to stay calm, to listen, to let her finish. "Are you saying I'm not invited because I don't have enough money? Because I drive an old car and live in a modest house?" "It's more complicated than that." The words came faster now, as if she'd been waiting to say them, rehearsing them. "You're a wonderful father. You gave me everything you had. Literally, your last $50,000. I appreciate that sacrifice more than you know. But this wedding represents David's career, our future together. We need to present the right image." She paused. I said nothing. Let the silence work. "In those clothes, driving that car, you'd stand out for the wrong reasons. David's partners will be evaluating him, evaluating us. This isn't about love. It's about optics. Professional advancement. Surely you understand business works that way sometimes." "I understand business," I said quietly. "You'd be miserable anyway, Dad." Her voice shifted, becoming almost patronizing, as if she were doing me a favor. "These people talk about investments, real estate portfolios, international business deals. What would you talk about? Your retirement? Your house? You deserve to spend the day relaxing, not feeling inadequate around successful people. We're actually doing this for you as much as for us." The words sounded rehearsed, practiced. I realized this wasn't a spontaneous decision reached that moment on the phone. They'd planned to exclude me from the beginning. The printer delays, the promise to deliver my invitation personally, all lies, buying time, hoping I wouldn't notice until too late to object. "I understand perfectly," I said. "Thank you for your honesty, Jennifer." I paused, thinking of Barbara, thinking of the woman who'd loved me when I was just a waiter, who'd built an empire alongside me, who'd insisted we raise our daughter with values and humility. The woman who died believing Jennifer had learned those lessons. "Enjoy your wedding. Your mother would have been proud to see the woman you've become." I ended the call before she could respond. For a long moment, I stood in the darkness of my terrace, phone resting in my palm, feeling something shift inside my chest. The hurt remained, sharp, genuine, deep as any pain I'd felt since losing Barbara. But underneath it, something harder crystallized. Something that had been forming since I'd overheard Jennifer's mocking phone call, since Robert had shown me the invitation, since I'd realized my daughter chose my restaurant without knowing it was mine. For 3 years since Barbara's death, I'd lived modestly to see people's true character. Mission accomplished. I'd seen my daughter's truth, heard it spoken in her own words. Now she'd see mine. I walked inside, turned on every light in my house, and opened my laptop. Logged into my real banking accounts. Not the small checking account Jennifer knew about, but the ones holding the fortune from 20 years of building restaurants, from smart investments, from the sale of 2 locations last year. The numbers glowed on the screen. $180 million. I opened a new browser tab, searched. Robinson R44 Helicopter Rental Miami. Another tab, Helicopter Landing Azure Coast, Miami Beach. I pulled up my contacts, found Stephen Murphy's number, the manager of Azure Coast Restaurant. My restaurant. Jennifer's wedding venue. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. Not yet. I needed to think this through carefully, strategically, the way I'd built my business, methodically, with attention to timing and detail. I pulled Barbara's photograph from the other room, set it beside my laptop, wanted her watching as I made these decisions, wanted to feel her presence. If Jennifer wanted an elite event at an exclusive venue, I'd give her exactly that, and more than she bargained for. The hurt father was gone. The strategic businessman, the man who'd turned a single seaside cafe into an 8-restaurant empire, who'd negotiated million-dollar deals, who understood exactly how power worked, that man was back. I opened a new document, typed a title. Saturday, August 23rd, Arrival Strategy. My fingers paused over the keyboard. Then I began typing steadily, methodically, building the framework. 4 days to prepare the most important entrance of my life. The clock showed 10:47 p.m. I wouldn't sleep tonight. I didn't need to. Wednesday morning arrived with bright sun and purpose. I'd spent the night mapping strategies, calculating timing, building the framework. Now I needed allies. I loaded my laptop bag with documents, corporate ownership papers, bank statements, the folder of receipts showing every dollar I'd given Jennifer over 34 years, and drove my old Toyota toward downtown Miami. The glass towers reflected morning light, making the city look cleaner than it was. I parked in the garage beneath Robert Chen's building and took the elevator to the 23rd floor. Robert had been my attorney for 20 years, handled the structuring of Warren's elite dining, knew every detail of my hidden wealth. He was also the only person I'd told about my decision to live modestly after Barbara died. His assistant showed me into the conference room overlooking Biscayne Bay. Robert entered moments later, coffee in hand, his usual professional smile faltering when he saw my face. What happened? I told him everything. Jennifer's rejection, her explanation that I was too poor, would embarrass her, should stay home. The venue being Azure Coast, my own restaurant. Robert's composure cracked. She said, "What? That you're too poor for her wedding? At your restaurant?" He set down his coffee hard enough to slosh liquid over the rim. "Clifton, this is beyond disrespectful. What do you want to do?" I spread documents across his conference table. Ownership papers, financial statements, the timeline of my 3-year experiment. "I want to attend my daughter's wedding. I'll arrive by helicopter at 4:30 Saturday afternoon, land on the pad I installed 5 years ago, and walk into my restaurant. I won't disrupt the ceremony. I'll just be there. The truth will handle the rest." Robert studied me for a long moment, then nodded. Attorney mode engaged. He pulled out his phone, started making calls. First to a helicopter charter service he'd used for corporate clients. "Robinson R44, Saturday afternoon, departure at 4:10. Yes, landing at Azure Coast Restaurant, Miami Beach. Confirming the pad can accommodate." He negotiated price, confirmed insurance, secured the booking while I listened. "You'll need a witness," Robert said after hanging up. "Someone who can verify what happened. I'm clearing my Saturday afternoon." We spent 2 hours planning logistics, timing, legal boundaries, what I could say, what I couldn't. Robert made notes in his precise handwriting, building the framework that would protect me from any claims of disruption or trespassing. "It's your property," he confirmed. "She rented the venue, but you're the owner. Legally, you have every right to be there." After leaving Robert's office, I drove to Miami Beach, to Azure Coast. I hadn't visited in 3 years, part of my deliberate invisibility, my experiment in seeing who valued me versus my money. I parked in the employee lot and entered through the service entrance. The kitchen smelled like garlic and fresh seafood. Line cooks worked efficiently, lunch service in full swing. Stephen Murphy nearly dropped his clipboard when he saw me walking through. "Mr. Warren?" We'd communicated only by email for years. He thought he reported to a corporate management company. Didn't know the owner's face. I asked to speak privately, and he led me to his cramped office overlooking the ocean terrace. "Stephen, I need to tell you something, and I need your help." I explained everything, my daughter's wedding, her belief I was poor, her decision to exclude me. Stephen's face cycled through shock, confusion, then anger. "Wait, Jennifer Warren is your daughter? The bride who's been emailing me for 2 months?" He pulled up the wedding contract on his computer, showed me every detail. "She had her fiancé? Call last week asking for a discount for friends. I told them our rates are non-negotiable. They paid $58,000. More than the $50,000 I gave her. She'd spent my money plus extra, all while excluding me from the event. "How can I help?" Stephen asked. "Saturday afternoon, 4:30 exactly, a helicopter will land on the north pad. That'll be me. Make sure the area's clear. And when I walk inside, just Confirm who I am if anyone asks. Stephen's jaw tightened. It would be my pleasure. I walked through my restaurant before leaving, touched the mahogany bar I'd selected 15 years ago, looked at the ocean view through floor-to-ceiling windows, saw the framed photograph on the wall, opening day, Barbara and me cutting the ribbon that Stephen had carefully maintained. The restaurant was beautiful, successful, mine, and Jennifer had chosen it without knowing. That evening, back home, my phone buzzed with a text from Jennifer. Dad, please don't come to Azure Coast on Saturday. I know you might want to see the venue, but it would be too painful for you to watch from outside. Stay home and relax. We'll visit you Sunday and show you photos. Love you. I read it 3 times. She actually thought I might stand outside my own restaurant, watching through windows like a beggar. The condescension in those 2 words, love you, made my jaw clench. I didn't respond. Instead, I opened my closet and pulled out the garment bag I hadn't touched in 3 years. Inside, my Tom Ford suit, custom-tailored charcoal gray with subtle pinstripes, Italian leather shoes, platinum cufflinks that had belonged to my father. I'd worn this suit to business meetings with investors, to restaurant openings, to charity galas with Barbara. I'd wear it again Saturday. I tried it on, standing in front of my bedroom mirror. The man looking back wasn't the modest retiree in polo shirts and khakis. This was the businessman who built an empire, the husband who stood beside Barbara at ribbon cuttings, the father who deserved respect. I hung the suit on my closet door where I could see it, set my alarm for early Saturday morning, pulled up the helicopter charter confirmation on my phone. Robinson R-44, departure 4:10 p.m., landing Azure Coast 4:30 p.m., 3 days until Saturday, 72 hours until Jennifer's wedding. I looked at Barbara's photograph on my nightstand, the same image that hung in Azure Coast, both of us young and hopeful and proud. She chose our restaurant, Barbara, I whispered. Of all the venues in Miami, she chose ours, and she doesn't even know. The irony would have made Barbara laugh, then cry, then ask me what I planned to do about it. Now she'd see. The helicopter noise was surprisingly tolerable with the headphones on, a steady thrum beneath the pilot's occasional updates. Below, Miami Beach spread out in geometric patterns, white buildings, turquoise pools, the darker blue of the ocean. I wore my Tom Ford suit, platinum cufflinks, catching afternoon light through the window. Azure Coast in 2 minutes, Mr. Warren. The pilot's voice crackled through the headset. I leaned forward, watching the coastline sharpen into detail. Then I saw it. My restaurant. The ocean terrace was filled with people in formal wear, colorful dresses and dark suits creating a celebration mosaic. I couldn't identify Jennifer from this height, but I knew she was down there, greeting guests, playing perfect bride, believing her poor father was home alone. Circling once, then approaching from the north, the pilot said. I'd requested the circle, wanted everyone to notice, wanted the spectacle. The helicopter banked, and I watched heads turn upward on the terrace. People pointed, shielded their eyes against the sun. Phones appeared in hands, capturing this unexpected arrival. We completed the circle and descended toward the landing pad. Stephen had cleared it perfectly. No tables, no decorations, just the marked helipad I'd installed 5 years ago for exactly this purpose. The Robinson R-44 touched down at precisely 4:30. Through the window, I saw the crowd maybe 50 feet away. Conversations stopped. Champagne glasses paused mid-sip. Every face turned toward the helicopter. The pilot cut the engine. Rotor wash whipped through palm trees. I opened the door and stepped out. The Tom Ford suit fit like armor. Italian leather shoes met concrete. I walked away from the helicopter with measured steps, not hurrying, letting people see me clearly. Whispers started. Phones rose higher, recording. Then I saw her. Jennifer stood near the terrace entrance, wedding dress pristine white, champagne flute frozen halfway to her lips. David beside her, tuxedo perfect, his expression cycling through confusion to recognition to alarm. Jennifer moved first, rushed toward me, dress trailing behind, David following uncertainly. Her face showed everything, shock, anger, embarrassment, settling finally on defensive accusation. "Dad!" She reached me breathless, words tumbling out too fast. "What are you doing here? Where did you get that helicopter? That suit? Did you rent it? Did you borrow money? Are you trying to embarrass me at my own wedding? Her voice rose with each question. Nearby guests turned to watch. David arrived beside her, placed a warning hand on her arm, eyes scanning his colleagues and clients, calculating social damage. I didn't answer her questions, just smiled, calm, knowing. I think it's time everyone knew the truth. I walked past her toward the restaurant's main entrance. She followed, protesting. David followed, demanding explanations. Guests parted for this strange procession: the helicopter father, the chasing bride, the damage-controlling groom. Stephen Murphy stood at the entrance, holding the door open. His face stayed carefully neutral, but he nodded once as I passed. Professional courtesy between employer and employee. We entered the main dining room. I walked directly to the far wall, to the photograph that had hung there for 15 years. More guests followed us inside. 50 people, maybe more, drawn by drama and confusion. Jennifer and David tried to position themselves between me and the crowd, but I stepped aside, gestured to the wall. The photograph was 4 feet wide, crystal clear. Barbara and me standing in front of Azure Coast on opening day, May 2010. Both younger. Barbara radiant in blue. Me in a business suit. Behind us, the restaurant's name shining in new letters. Oversized scissors in our hands, red ribbon cut and falling. Below the photo, a brass plaque. Azure Coast, founded by Clifton and Barbara Warren. May 15th, 2010. First location of Warren's Elite Dining. I turned to face the crowd. Jennifer, David, their friends, business associates, family members, all watching. Several phones still recording. I placed my hand on the photograph's frame. I'd like you all to meet my late wife, Barbara. This is us, 15 years ago, opening Azure Coast. My voice carried clearly through the dining room. I'm Clifton Warren. I own this restaurant and 7 others in Florida. My daughter is getting married here today at my restaurant, the wedding she told me I was too poor to attend. The words hung in the air. Silence fell. Complete. Absolute. 50 guests stared at the photograph, then at me, then at Jennifer. Someone's phone was still recording. The small red light blinked steadily. David's face had drained of color. His hand dropped from Jennifer's arm. Jennifer stood frozen, mouth open, no words coming. Her champagne flute, somehow still in her hand, began trembling. Then someone in the back started typing on their phone. Then another. The name Clifton Warren being searched, Googled, investigated. I could almost hear it. The sound of my secret ending, truth spreading through Wi-Fi signals and data connections. Stephen Murphy stepped forward, breaking the silence. It's true. Mr. Warren is the owner. I've managed this restaurant for him for 8 years. More typing. More searching. Faces illuminated by phone screens. Jennifer finally found her voice. It came out as a whisper. No, that's not. You can't be. I turned to face my daughter fully, looked into her eyes. Let her see something she'd never seen before. Not anger, not hurt, but quiet justice. I can be, Jennifer. I always have been. The silence lasted maybe 3 seconds. Then phones started buzzing with search results. A woman near the back, one of David's colleagues, expensive suit and designer handbag, spoke first, reading from her screen with growing incredulity. Warren's Elite Dining, 8 locations across Florida. Estimated net worth $150 to $200 million. The words rippled through the crowd. More phones illuminated faces. I watched the discovery spread like contagion. One person finding information, showing their neighbor, both of them searching deeper, confirming details, looking up at me, then back at their screens. Forbes article from 2019, someone else announced. Florida's hidden restaurant empire, the Warren success story. A man in his 60s held up his phone, showing a LinkedIn profile. Clifton Warren, founder and CEO, Warren's Elite Dining, LLC. University of Miami Business School, 40 years in hospitality industry. The evidence cascaded. Photos of me at business events, ribbon cuttings, charity galas, all from before Barbara's death, all showing the wealthy businessman I used to publicly be. David's boss, a silver-haired man I recognized from the ceremony rehearsal, stared at his phone, then at David. His expression darkened with understanding. Stephen Murphy stepped forward, his voice carrying professional authority through the murmurs. Everything Mr. Warren said is true. I've managed Azure Coast for 8 years, reporting directly to him. He owns this restaurant and 7 others. He's been my employer since I started in the industry. The confirmation from a neutral source, someone with no reason to lie, solidified the truth. Murmurs grew louder. A woman pushed through the crowd toward David, his sister Patricia, face flushed, hissing something I couldn't hear but could definitely interpret from her aggressive gestures. David moved suddenly, approaching me with forced enthusiasm, hand extended, smile too wide. Mr. Warren, what an incredible surprise. Jennifer must have wanted to preserve the mystery. Keep your success private. What a brilliant strategy. Very humble. Very wise. His voice projected for the audience, trying to rewrite the narrative. Make this planned, intentional. I didn't shake his hand. There's no strategy, David. I spoke clearly, ensuring everyone heard. My daughter told me explicitly that I was too poor for her elite wedding. She said someone in my financial situation would feel uncomfortable around successful people. She chose my own restaurant without knowing I owned it. Jennifer broke her paralysis. Tears streamed down her face, wedding makeup running in dark streaks. She reached for me, hands trembling. Daddy, please, I didn't know. I thought you lived so modestly. I assumed you were struggling. I was trying to... But her words scattered when she saw the guests' faces, the judgment in their eyes. Phone still recording, she turned on David instead. You said he couldn't afford to be here. You said we needed to protect our image. This is your fault. David's face hardened. Their unity fractured publicly, the stress revealing what their relationship actually was. Status, not love. I addressed the crowd one final time. The wedding is fully paid for. The ceremony will proceed as scheduled. I won't disrupt my daughter's day any further, but I wanted you all to know the truth about what happened here. About who decided a father wasn't worthy of his daughter's wedding because he drove an old car and lived in a modest house. I turned to Jennifer, looked at her directly. Your mother built this business with me. She would have been heartbroken to see what you've become. Then I walked toward the exit. Stephen opened the door. I didn't look back. Behind me, the murmur grew into open conversation, scandal spreading through 200 guests who'd carry this story across Miami's social circles by morning. Outside, ocean breeze hit my face. The helicopter waited on the pad. Stephen followed me. Mr. Warren, do you want me to proceed with the ceremony? I paused, considering. The ceremony was supposed to start in 20 minutes. 200 guests were here. The venue was prepared. I thought about Barbara, about Grace, about not becoming vindictive. Yes, let them have their wedding. They've already paid for it in ways money can't measure. I climbed into the helicopter. As it lifted off, I saw the terrace below. Guests clustering in groups, animated conversations, phones to ears making calls. The scandal spreading beyond these boundaries. By tomorrow morning, everyone in Miami's business community would know what happened here. Jennifer and David's social destruction had only begun. Sunday morning arrived with relentless sunlight and my phone ringing constantly. I sat on my terrace, coffee growing cold, watching Jennifer's name appear on the screen for the 23rd time. 9:30 a.m. The call started at 7. I didn't answer. Between calls, text messages appeared. Dad, please answer. I need to explain. I'm so sorry. Please give me a chance. I read each one, deleted none, responded to none. Across town, in the expensive Coconut Grove house Jennifer and David were renting, $7,000 monthly, I knew from the lease she'd asked me to co-sign last year, the newlyweds weren't enjoying their first day of marriage. I didn't know this directly, but Robert Chen texted me mid-morning with updates he'd heard through professional channels. David was pacing between rooms, his phone showing LinkedIn profile views from colleagues, carefully worded questions, his boss's terse message requesting Monday meeting. The story spread exponentially Sunday. What started with 200 wedding guests became 2,000 social media impressions, became 20,000 as people shared the tale. Wealthy father uninvited from daughter's wedding at his own restaurant. The narrative was irresistible. My phone showed notifications from former business associates reaching out, people I hadn't spoken to in 3 years, suddenly curious about my return to visibility. I ignored those too. The only message I considered answering came from Robert. I heard it went exactly as planned. Well executed. Legal boundaries held perfectly. Call when ready. I wasn't ready. Monday morning, David received the summons. Robert heard about it by noon. Professional networks in Miami's financial sector talked, and word traveled fast when someone notable stumbled. David arrived at his downtown office at 9:45, 15 minutes early for the 10 o'clock meeting. The receptionist wouldn't meet his eyes. 3 senior partners sat across from him in the conference room, his personnel file open on the table. Robert got the details later from a paralegal whose firm shared the building. The lead partner, the same man who'd attended the wedding, spoke directly. David, we've received calls from 4 major clients since Saturday. They're uncomfortable continuing relationships with someone who displays such poor judgment in personal matters. If you'll exclude your own father-in-law from a family event over perceived poverty, what does that say about your values, your ethics, your decision-making with their money? David tried explaining, tried spinning, tried claiming misunderstanding. The partners listened politely and delivered their decision. Effective immediately, David was transferred from wealth management to internal operations, back office position, minimal client contact. Salary dropped from $250,000 to $150,000 annually, 40% cut. Corner office reassigned, assistant transferred, book of clients redistributed. This isn't termination, the lead partner clarified. Consider it an opportunity to rebuild your reputation, demonstrate better judgment going forward. David left the meeting at 10:45. By noon, he'd boxed his personal items. By 1 p.m., he'd moved to a windowless office on the 3rd floor. That afternoon, Patricia Holmes called David. Unlike Jennifer's pleading calls to me, Patricia's anger needed no voicemail. Her voice cut through the phone. Robert heard about this from Patricia's husband, a corporate attorney he played golf with monthly. You've destroyed our family's reputation. Mother and father are humiliated. Everyone at the country club knows what you did. You're a financial consultant, David. Due diligence is literally your job, and you couldn't even research your own father-in-law's net worth before insulting him. The call ended with her demand that he and Jennifer skip upcoming family events. Until this blows over, it wouldn't blow over. By Monday evening, Jennifer had called me 47 times. I'd listened to none of the voicemails, but saw the count increasing. Her text messages grew more desperate. Detailed apologies, explanations of her reasoning, promises to change, pleas for forgiveness. I sat in my modest living room, the same room that embarrassed her, and read each message carefully. I saw the pattern. First, she apologized for the misunderstanding, then for not realizing my wealth, then for hurting my feelings. But nowhere did she apologize for the fundamental issue, being ashamed of me, valuing money over relationships, choosing status over family. She was sorry she got caught, sorry for consequences, but not truly sorry for who she'd revealed herself to be. My phone buzzed again. Jennifer's name, 48th call. I picked up the phone. Not to answer, not yet, just to hold it, to think about what came next. I'd proven my point. The truth was public. David's career was damaged. Jennifer's social standing was shattered. But what now? Barbara's photograph sat across the table. I imagined her voice. You've shown them who you are. Now show them who you can still be. I set the phone down without answering. Tomorrow I'd call Robert Chen. We'd discuss the financial reality Jennifer and David now faced. The expensive rental house they couldn't afford on David's reduced salary. The debt they'd accumulated planning an extravagant wedding. The bills coming due in weeks. The social punishment was complete. But the real lesson, about money, about values, about consequences, that lesson was just beginning. And this time, I'd teach it properly. Tuesday morning found them at their kitchen table, surrounded by bills and bank statements spread across expensive marble. David's calculator sat among the papers, numbers glowing accusingly. We spent $80,000 on that wedding. David's voice was hollow. 50 from your father, 30 from our savings. Our savings are gone. My salary dropped by $100,000 annually. That's $8,000 less per month after taxes. Your salary is about to drop by $20,000. This house costs $7,000 monthly. Add utilities, cars, insurance, food. He pushed the calculator toward Jennifer. We're underwater by at least $3,000 every month. Jennifer's laptop showed her company's HR portal. A meeting request from her supervisor glowed with the subject line, "Discussion required, Monday." She'd been avoiding opening it, but now she clicked. The email was professionally worded but clear. "Recent personal events have raised concerns about client relationships. We need to discuss your role moving forward." "They're going to demote me," she whispered. David slumped back. "We need to find a cheaper place. Or you need to keep your full salary, or—" He trailed off. The unspoken option hung between them. Call her father. "He's not going to help us." Jennifer's tears came suddenly. "I told him he was too poor for my wedding. I said he'd embarrass me. Why would he help us now?" David's frustration boiled over. "This is your fault. Your misjudgment of his situation. Your willingness to exclude family for status." Jennifer's head snapped up. "You convinced me. You emphasized image and professional connections. You made me ashamed of my own father. This is as much your fault as mine." The argument revealed the truth they'd been avoiding. They were both responsible, both complicit, both now paying the price. Tuesday afternoon, Jennifer's meeting with her supervisor confirmed their fears. Reassignment to reduced role meant salary cut from $75,000 to $55,000, another $20,000 gone annually. By Wednesday morning, they'd reached rock bottom. David sat on their expensive couch, staring at abstract art they'd bought to impress guests. Jennifer stood at the window overlooking their manicured yard, the yard they could no longer afford to maintain. "We need to go see my father," she said quietly. "Not to ask for money, to apologize. Really apologize." David looked at her. "You think he'll even see us?" "I don't know, but it's the only honest thing left to do." Wednesday afternoon, they drove to Coral Gables. Jennifer had called ahead, left a voicemail asking if they could visit, promising no excuses. Clifton texted back one word: "Fine." They sat in their car outside his house for 5 minutes, neither wanting to face him, both knowing they must. The house looked different now. Not shabby, but intentional. Not poor, but deliberate. The peeling paint was camouflage. The overgrown lawn was a test. I opened the door before they knocked. I'd been watching them sit in the driveway, working up courage. They looked different. Not the confident couple from 2 weeks ago, but humbled, worn, uncertain. "Come in." I led them to the terrace. The same cheap plastic chairs Jennifer had judged before. We sat in silence for a moment, ocean breeze carrying sounds from distant neighbors. Jennifer spoke first, her voice breaking. "Dad, I was horrible. I valued money and status more than you. I was ashamed of you, and that shame was about me, not you. You deserved better. You deserved a daughter who saw your worth regardless of your bank account." David followed, his voice steady but quiet. "I pushed her to exclude you. I was obsessed with image, with what my colleagues would think. I convinced her that having you there would hurt our reputation. I was wrong about everything that matters." I watched their faces, measured their sincerity. These weren't practiced words. This was real remorse. I sat back in my plastic chair, looking at them across the table. Barbara's photograph was visible through the screen door, watching from inside. I saw my daughter's tears, not manipulative crying, but genuine grief. I saw David's slumped shoulders, not defensive posturing, but true remorse. This was what I wanted. Not their destruction, but their understanding. Not their financial collapse, but their moral awakening. I took a long breath. I didn't reveal my wealth to punish you. I did it to teach you. The question now is, did you learn? Jennifer looked up, hope flickering through tears. David met my eyes directly for the first time since arriving. I stood, stretched. "Come back tomorrow morning, 10 o'clock. Meet me at Azure Coast. I have a proposal." I walked inside, leaving them on the terrace. As they drove away, I heard Jennifer whisper through the open window, "Do you think he'll forgive us?" David didn't answer. Neither of them knew. But tomorrow morning, they'd find out. Thursday morning, 9:45. They pulled into Azure Coast's parking lot, 15 minutes early. The restaurant where their wedding disaster unfolded 5 days ago felt different now. Not a venue of celebration, but a place of judgment, and possibly redemption. At 9:55, they walked inside. Stephen Murphy greeted them at the entrance, expression professionally neutral, and led them through the main dining room, past the photograph of Barbara and me on opening day, to my private office overlooking the terrace. I sat behind a simple desk, wearing a polo shirt and khakis, looking like the modest father they thought they knew. I gestured for them to sit. The office was quiet, just the three of us and waves through an open window. I've thought about your apology. I believe you're sincere. You've experienced consequences, and consequences teach what words cannot. I'm willing to forgive you, but forgiveness doesn't mean erasing what happened. It means moving forward with clear understanding. I paused, letting that settle. Trust has to be rebuilt. Rebuilding requires action, not promises. Jennifer nodded, crying quietly. David sat forward, attentive. I slid a folder across my desk toward David. Job description for financial manager, Warren's Elite Dining. You'll manage accounts payable, budgeting, vendor relations across 8 restaurants. Salary is $85,000 annually with benefits. You'll report to my CFO, work in a back office at corporate headquarters. No client schmoozing, no status games. Just real work, managing real money with real integrity. David opened the folder, read slowly, his finger pausing on the salary line. Less than half his original income. He looked up at me. I'd be honored. I know this is less than I made before, but I also know I need to prove I understand what real work means. Thank you for the opportunity. I turned to Jennifer. Your mother started a foundation before she died, the Barbara Warren Community Fund. It helps elderly people who've been abandoned by their families. Companionship, grocery delivery, home repairs, connection. She ran it herself for 2 years before cancer took her. I've kept it going, but it needs more hands. I slid another folder toward her. I want you to volunteer there. 20 hours weekly, minimum 6 months. You'll meet people who are exactly where you thought I was. Elderly, modest means isolated. You'll learn what real value looks like when money isn't the measure. Jennifer opened the folder, saw photos of elderly faces, mission statements about dignity and community. Yes, I'll do it. I want to do it. I stood, walked to the window overlooking the ocean. I'm also establishing a new initiative, the Barbara Warren Family Reconciliation Fund. $5 million to support families working through conflicts like ours. Counseling, mediation, financial literacy, education. Your situation isn't unique. Many families break apart over misunderstandings about money and worth. I turned back to them. You'll be the first case study. If you do the work, David in his job, Jennifer volunteering, and rebuild your values, your story becomes proof that people can change, that consequences can be teachers, not just punishments. They looked at each other, then back at me. They understood. This wasn't just about them anymore. I sat back down, my voice softening. I didn't do any of this to destroy you. I did it because I love you, Jennifer. You're my daughter. You're all I have left of Barbara. But love doesn't mean accepting everything. Sometimes love means showing people hard truths. Jennifer crossed the office and hugged me. Really hugged me, desperate and grateful and remorseful. I'm so sorry, Dad. I'll prove I've changed. I promise. David stood, extended his hand. Mr. Warren, thank you for this chance. I won't waste it. I shook his hand firmly. Call me Clifton. We're family now. Family doesn't always get along, but family doesn't give up on each other either. 1 month later, September. I visited the Barbara Warren Community Fund Center on a Thursday afternoon. Jennifer was there, helping an elderly man named Harold with his groceries, listening patiently to his stories about his estranged daughter. Her eyes met mine across the community center, and I saw understanding there. She got it now. She saw Harold's worth not in his bank account, but in his dignity, his humanity. David had been working at Warren's Elite Dining headquarters, managing budgets. His former colleagues occasionally saw him in business settings. No longer flashy wealth manager, but competent operations professional. Some smirked. Others respected the humility required to start over. David no longer cared about their opinions. Jennifer and David moved from the expensive Coconut Grove house to a modest apartment in Coral Gables, 3 blocks from my house. They had me over for simple dinners. Conversation flowed naturally now, without pretense. Jennifer asked about Barbara, about the early restaurant days, about values that mattered. I told stories, shared wisdom, and felt something I hadn't felt in 3 years. Genuine family connection. Sunday evening, all three of us stood at Azure Coast for the Foundation's first fundraising dinner. Jennifer helped organize it. David managed the finances. I stood at the podium introducing the Barbara Warren Family Reconciliation Fund, telling our story, anonymously, carefully, but honestly, about a father and daughter who lost their way and found it again. Jennifer watched from the back of the room, tears streaming, seeing me honored not for wealth, but for wisdom. That night, I stood at my bedroom window, Barbara's photograph in my hands. "I did what you would have wanted," I whispered. "I taught her. I didn't destroy her. I saved her." My phone showed a text from Jennifer. "Thank you for not giving up on me, Dad. Mom would be proud of who you are. I hope someday I can make her proud of who I've become." I texted back, "She already is. So am I." I set down the phone and the photograph, turned off the light, and slept peacefully for the first time in weeks. Not because I won, but because I did what mattered. I loved my daughter enough to show her the truth, and she loved me enough to learn from it. If you like this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your impressions of this story in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the left. Thank you for watching.